Hello, YouTube family. My name is Bahamia. I am your nurse in the know. I am a geriatric care manager and a caregiver life coach. So, kind of two of the same, but basically, what I do is I help people who are now caregivers of loved ones with dementia, aging loved ones who have disabilities and difficulties, kind of getting back to what their baseline function was, and also just helping caregivers cope through this season in their caregiver lives and the whole process and what that entails and what we kind of have to go through in terms of a care plan, so that as you embark upon this journey and as you go through the season, you're not traumatized by all the craziness and chaos that most of the time is going to happen. It's part of the process. There are certain things about being a caregiver that you will never, ever expect. You won't ever really know how to cope with because you haven't been in this situation. You may not know anybody who's been in the situation. And regardless of what anybody tells you or says about caregiving for your aging loved one, it's really hard to know what you're going to come up against unless you've actually been in the situation, had experience with another loved one like your spouse or a close relative, to be able to understand what this caregiver journey is all about. And also, I have to add that no two caregiver journeys are the same. Yeah, there are similar circumstances when it comes to diagnoses and transition things, but oftentimes what I work with my clients and with their families is pretty much figuring out the dynamics. It's not so much that, I'm a nurse, I have a nursing background, I should explain that. I've been a nurse for the past 15 years. My specialty has been with geriatric care. It's what I love, it's what I've grown up with. I've been doing this pretty much all my life, and at this stage in the game, at this point in my career, I really want to give back to the people that I've served so long and helping their caregivers better manage their care and also really ultimately better manage their self-care. So that's why I put this together. I am starting a podcast soon, and I want to be able to kind of record my journey, record the process. I built this channel over a year ago and never really uploaded anything to it because part of me has been super nervous to do so. I will say that I struggle with being in front of the camera, and not necessarily, being in front of the camera per se, but knowing what to say, presenting myself. I'm a perfectionist, so everything has to be perfect, obviously. I have to have the right delivery. And a little while ago, I just kind of let that go and figured that the message was more important than my own little hang-ups. And that, as I talk to people, I'll make mistakes along the way, maybe in how I present certain things, or I might trip up over my words because that's when I get really into whatever it is that I'm saying, and then I become super self-aware. But ultimately, my heart is in the right place. I want to be able to provide people with information, tips, resources, strategies that will help them care plan in a way that edifies them, edifies their loved one, and overall makes this part of their journey, their life journey, this season in their life journey, not only worth it, because I'll be honest, a lot of the caregivers and family members that I deal with, that I work with, they end up feeling like they just have to deal with the situation and they're not enjoying it. Not only are they not enjoying it, when they look back at certain aspects of their path and their journey, they are regretful. They feel like it was more of a trauma, that it wasn't worth it, that they should have just done something different, whether it's being a caregiver directly at the bedside or being a caregiver from a distance, meaning placing their aging loved one in a long-term care facility or an assisted living. And just so I put it out there, there is no right or wrong answer to what I just said, because everybody's circumstance is different. I have a lot of caregivers who are pretty much part of the sandwich generation, where they are dealing with caring for their aging loved one, caring for their families, and sometimes having other responsibilities like work, and their spouses and other connections, being a part of clubs, organizations that they have other responsibilities to, that does not allow them to be a caregiver at the bedside in the traditional sense. So I just want to put that out there again, reiterating that there is no right or wrong answer. The only thing that I want to impress upon you is that as you are in this caregiver space, as you're going through this season, just keep yourself in mind as number one, because I think that's what a lot of caregivers tend to default to, and to their own detriment of not placing themselves as number one in the picture. They are the caregiver, yes, but what happens is because they're caring for an aging loved one that cannot care for themselves, that cannot do certain things for themselves, they actually end up taking the back seat because they have to give so much to their loved one that they completely forget about themselves and ultimately experience caregiver burnout. So that's like my arch nemesis is no caregiver burnout, no stressed out situations, no overwhelmment. And those things are going to happen in a sense where, because you don't know what you're doing, what you're getting into, who to contact, what resources you have that are available, you are going to have feelings of this. But ultimately, I don't want the whole path to be like this, because I know moving forward, I just kind of was talking about this on my IGTV series that I have with at Yoga Flava, and she also has a YouTube channel, so check her out. It's Yoga Flava TV, but then also my IG if you want to kind of follow some of the tips and I say tricks, but they're not really tricks. They're just nursing experiences that I've had in working with caregivers and working with aging loved ones and the geriatric population in general that I help people with, because no one talks about them. You have your physician, you have your social worker, but no one talks about how to physically do certain things that maybe only a nurse would know. So I am your nurse in the know. Hence, no pun intended, or whatever. But anywho, that's my IG. So if you ever get a chance and are on IG, go to @NurseInTheKnow. That's where I post a lot of my day-to-day stuff. But I just want to build this channel up enough so that some of the things that I don't really want to talk about on Instagram, or I'm too lazy to write a full caption about, I can come here, safe space, and just kind of maybe sometimes vent, because I'm very passionate about this. I do get a little emotional about having caregiving being kind of like the stepchild of like the healthcare industry, because people don't pay attention to the caregivers. The focus is on the individual that needs care, which is 100% needed, because that's what we're here for anyways. But ultimately, that's not just it. This affects your life too. And so I want to come on YouTube and address some of the questions that I get personally. Also, I'm a part of the Aging Care Board, and it's a website, agingcare.com. I'm looking at it off screen just so that I don't get it wrong. But I want to put this podcast together so that I can answer the questions that I see from my perspective, because there are a lot of people that have questions on agingcare.com, and you have others kind of chiming in on what their experiences have been, but I don't really see professionals come in and kind of talk about where they can get certain resources. So I want to be that voice, if anything. And today's topic is about taking care of self. So this question comes from someone who's just completed 11 years of taking care of their mom and dad, who have both passed away peacefully. They're concerned that they are an only child with no close relatives. Who is going to take care of them when they need it? And how can I apply for long-term care? Basically saying they know how to do it, but whoever is going to take care of them and make the decisions when the time comes needs to know certain things. So what's the best way to go about that? So there's not, any rhyme or reason to who you should assign as your caregiver. But ultimately, you want to make sure that that individual not only knows you, but knows your wishes. They don't have to be family. They can be friends. You can ultimately hire an executor if you want to go. Ultimately, you will have to go the legal route, especially if you are an only child and don't necessarily have other family members or friends that you trust. But the thing about it I want to express is that you have to, and I'm glad that she actually put this out there, because you really have to think about how you would want to age, irrespective of how your parents are aging. Because I don't think, for many reasons, people have put much thought towards how they want to age and what that will look like. And with all due respect, that has changed significantly. It used to be 20 and 30 years ago that long-term care, or maybe even longer, long-term care wasn't that much of an option. It wasn't that popular. Long-term care facilities weren't, overbooked and, no beds available. Things were just kind of getting to that space, but it wasn't nearly as complicated to help your aging loved one age, because most of them just stayed home. They stayed home. They had people who either were family members or hired care just help them age and get through the process. And now, for many different reasons, technology, work, life, just how things have evolved, we are at a very, very different space where there are more options, and in those options there tends to be more complication as well. So one of the things that I always say is, first and foremost, before you start looking for anybody, and I mean anybody, to help take care of you, right? Look at what you would consider your ideal way of aging. How and why would you want someone to take care of you in a way that edifies you? And write that down. I am such a big planner, and that's probably why I'm a geriatric care manager, but I am a huge planner, because if you fail to plan, you plan to fail, and you leave things up to the powers that be. And don't get me wrong, the powers that be are great, right? Somehow it all works out. And in that working out process, it can be very stressful. It can be a challenge. So I want to, as much as I can, help educate you, help fortify you with the information that you need, and give you the encouragement to be able to age gracefully, help your parents age gracefully, and talk to you and have the conversation with your children or whoever you think will be caring for you down the line. It is never too early to have this conversation. Unfortunately, when I come into the case with caring and helping caregivers care for their aging loved ones, it's sometimes a little too late to have certain conversations, because my specialty is with dementia and Alzheimer's. And so most of the time when I get to talking and sitting down with my caregivers, their loved ones don't have the capacity to be able to carry out a power of attorney or a will or an advance directive, things that we'll talk about later on down the line in some other posts. But these are the things that matter the most. This is what really tells people what your true wishes are. And because it's such a touchy subject, because it's a subject that people don't really want to expose in terms of their wishes, we're talking about end of life, we're talking about burial versus cremation, we're talking about who gets what, when, and where, and why, things of that nature, right? It tends to be something that's left to the last minute. And the problem with that is emotions tend to be high in that time. In that space, you don't want to have to leave it to someone to make that decision, and you yourself don't want to have to make that decision. So, like I said, this is just the first of many, because I've gotten over my little fear and anxiety and ego of presenting things online and on this YouTube platform, and I'm just going to do it, and I'm going to get better. But like I said, the message is the most important thing, and if I can even help one person, I will have done my job. I will have fulfilled my mission, so to speak. So with that said, I am your nurse in the know, signing out. I always want for you to be able to do the best that you can as a caregiver. The best is all that you can do. I promise you, even if you think you're not doing everything, you are doing all the things. As a caregiver, whether you're a direct or indirect caregiver, it is absolutely important, absolutely pivotal that you take care of yourself. So like I said, self-care is my pillar of understanding, and it's my pillar of providing education and resources and tips for the caregiver, especially for those who are caring for loved ones with dementia. So until next time, give care and take care.